Hello there. So yesterday I played round 3 in the Lichess4545 team league, and as you can see I was playing as black with the opponent of my similar strength, at least according to the classical rating. So let me show you the game without any further ado. My opponent opened with d4, and now, like in the last game, I told you I want to experiment with some kind of little bit different opening approach, so not to play always the same openings. I want to try from time to time to play something different, just in order to expand my knowledge of chess and my exposure to different pawn structures and different strategic ideas. So instead of playing d5, which I usually do, I will play d6 and then later e5. So I will put my pawn in center. I'm sticking to the classical basic opening principle to put your pawn in the center, but this will be e pawn, not the d pawn. So d6, c4, and now I play e5 as was my intention from the beginning. He decided in this position there are several responses from white possible, so he usually develops his knights, and then I can develop my knight and we can continue playing chess. Or he can go to the endgame immediately. So if he takes, I take, he takes the queen, we exchange queens, and we are in the endgame. And this is what happened in this game. So he took d takes c5, d takes c5, and we exchange queens. And now we are in the endgame from the move 4. I mean, okay, it's not technically endgame. It's let's say queenless middle game. The endgame usually refers to the part of game in which the pawns make a crucial role. I mean, the advancement of the pawns and the promotion of the pawns. So we are far from the thinking about promotions, but okay. According to some other criteria, the end game begins when queens are exchanged. Okay, so my opponent played e4 here, and now I have to develop my pieces. So I played bishop to e6, just a simple developing move. Knight to f3. He's now developing with the threat, so he's now threatening to get my undefended pawn on e5, so I'm defending the pawn on f6. He played the knight c3, so again just developing, and I play c6 here. And well, this move is sometimes played, sometimes not. The engine thinks it's not something important that I should do immediately, but the basically idea of c6 is to dominate this knight, so to take away any advancement squares for his knight. Technically, maybe I shouldn't be worried about. I mean, if he jumps here, I can just kick it away later. Or if he goes here, then I can play c6, and again he has to go back. So maybe in this particular position, I should not be afraid of the knight advancement, and I should play some other developing move like this. But okay, I don't think this is a bad move per se. So c6, and eventually I want to play c6. I see my my king on c7 here on the say square, especially if he comes with his rook on the d file. Then I want to have my king on c7 to cover these penetration squares. So I think this c6 move is a decent move. Bishop to e3. Now, okay, he is continuing development. Knight to d7. I am developing as well. I'm not afraid of him. Long castle, because like I said, I can always stack my king now to c7, and I'm not afraid of this rook. He played a3. Now he wants to expand on the queen side, and I guess he also wants, if I put my piece on c5, he wants to be able to kick it away, and in general take away the c5 square, because now I can put my bishop on c5, I can put my knight on c5, so he wants to take on c5. And the most logical move here, which I didn't play because I didn't see it, would be to play a5. And in this way I'm securing this outpost, because now he cannot play b4, because I'll just take the pawn, and he cannot take back because I will take his rook. So this is this is the common strategical pattern. So if you want to keep the outpost, then you should prevent the pawn of taking the outpost away, let's say like this. So in this position, I think this was the most logical move, but I didn't see this move for some reason. I'm not sure I even considered it. I did consider it much later, when it was too late. I will show you. So I was thinking about development at this moment, so I played bishop to c5. Now if I take this bishop, he'll have these double pawns, which according to some masters is not weakness per se, because these two pawns are, although they are doubled, they manage to block my kingside pawns, and they take lots of squares in the center. So some masters consider that even if he allows me to take and doubles his pawn, that this is not a weakness. Engine thinks it is, but the practice shows it doesn't have to be. Let's say like this. Okay, so I challenged his bishop, and he retreated. So he didn't want to. He didn't want to allow the exchange, and also he didn't want to. He didn't want to take and to allow my knight here, because now this knight can be, even if he tries to kick it, for example, I can go here, then maybe here, and well, I am not sure what would I do in this situation, but this looks nice for me anyway. Okay, so he retreated his bishop, and now once again I should have played a5, and then my bishop is safe here, but instead I played king to c7. So I wanted to, well, this is just a developing move, wanting to bring my rook. And now he played b4, because I didn't play a5. Now he played b4, and well, at this moment I was thinking if this whole idea was the right idea in this position. I was a little bit confused here, but okay, I just retreated my bishop. You see, both of my bishops, well, I am a little bit passive. I have less space here, definitely, so he has more space than I do. But well, my pieces are well placed for some future action, so I'm not completely dissatisfied. And this is the situation in which one side plays with the space advantage, and to play with space advantage is not an easy thing to do. So theoretically this should be an advantage, but it's not easy to exploit this advantage. You have to be very strong player in order to be able to exploit the space advantage properly. And there was one very interesting lecture given by Grandmaster Jacek Rai. He talked about Fischer. It was a lecture about Fischer, and specifically it was about Fischer mishandling space advantage. It turned out that Fischer didn't like the positions in which he had space advantage, because even he wasn't so sure how to take advantage of space advantage. Yeah, so it is very interesting lecture. You can find it. Just type Jacek Rai Fischer lecture, and he shows several games in which Fischer actually declined to take a space advantage, and he preferred more close position, just in order not to be forced to face this kind of position. So just interesting story from the chess history. Okay, so he played c5 here. I don't like this move. I usually don't like c5, so whenever I think this pawn is better on c4, it's controlling the center. But okay, I see some appealing about this move. So with the pawn on c5, he's controlling both d5 and d6. So he has lots of control on my half of the board. He is grabbing some space. He's taking b6 for my knight, for example. So, well, there are some advantages. The disadvantage is that his light squares are very weak. He's giving me some nice holes, maybe to exploit either with my knight somehow here, or with my bishop. So many holes in his position, and this pawn is not difficult to. I mean, it's not difficult to handle or to challenge. So you just need to play b6 at some point, and you can even take with the knight. So I don't see some great advantage in this move, although it does look a little bit advancing and maybe a little bit intimidating. Okay, and now at this point a5 is still on the table, because if I play a5, I'm challenging this pawn, of course, and he cannot take because his rook will hang. So in this way I'm challenging basically his pawn chain. So I can take, and then maybe I can take this pawn with either my bishop or the knight. So again, this is the move which I have missed. Unfortunately, I was thinking about development, so I developed my knight on h6. This is the usual maneuver, so develop knight on h6 and then on f7. I'm not afraid if he wants to take. Sorry, my mouse is a little bit shaky, so I don't mind if he wants to take. Yes, I will have double pawns, but who cares? I can then activate my rook very easily, and I mean, I don't really mind if he takes my knight here. So I was thinking about this maneuver. He played h3, and now again, since his bishop is here, he cannot castle, he cannot connect his rooks. Again, I have a5. a5. If I take, he cannot take. If he takes, well, great. I can either take this this pawn, or I can take this pawn, or I can take this way. I have a zillion options. So when he played h3, once again I had a5. But I didn't, I just continued my maneuver, my development. I put the knight on f6, and then he played bishop to e2. And now this is a funny thing, and now a5 occurred to me. So just the moment in which it is too late, and I remember the thought process here. So that the thought process was like, I was thinking, okay, he played bishop e2, he probably tends to castle. What happens when he castles? He will connect his rooks, and that means that this rook will no longer be undefended, and that means that a5 no longer works. And this is the first moment in the game of which I thought about a5. So when it became ineffective, so to say. So it's interesting. So I noticed immediately that the move bishop to e2 has the consequence that I cannot play a5. And I didn't see a5 10 times before when I could have played a5 with advantage. So it's interesting how the brain works. I mean, who would thought in this position that bishop e2 means that you cannot play a5? I thought it I figured it out very fast, but I didn't see it when it was obvious. So okay, this is just our human brains. So, well, I decided to play a5 anyway. I thought that even here a5 is a good move. Engine doesn't completely agree, but I don't think there is anything wrong with this move. Neither does the engine, but the engine sees some better moves. But okay. So I now played a5. So the idea was that to somehow stabilize this this queen side, and then once he castle, I can try playing on the king side. So this was my plan. I'm not sure I had this plan articulated at this moment, to be honest. I had it some, well, yeah, I did have some ideas. I mean, I didn't have so clear a plan, but this was something I was aiming for. It will become clear to me later. So he castled, I took the pawn, he took. Okay, and now at this moment, okay, there will be tension here. I don't care. I mean, if he takes, I will take, and I will control the open file. I don't want to take because then he will create the open file. So this will just be a tension, and nobody will do anything about this. So I was thinking, now this side is stabilized, pretty much. He cannot push this pawn because then his c5 pawn is hanging. This was my idea. The engine thinks that I should even more stabilize this side by playing b6. Okay, I didn't think it was necessary, so I played g5. So now immediately, now I switch to the playing on the king side. So the queen side is stabilized, my king is safe on the queen side, his king is on the king side, and I can just go with the pawn storm. So switching the game on the king side where his king is. And this strategy and this plan turned out to be the right plan, I think, watching the rest of the game. So once again, this is stabilized, my king is safe here, and I can start pawn storming his king. He played g4. Now he wants to stop, of course. This is famous, what John Bartholomew calls point of double attack, I think, or something like this. So when When you have a pawn on h3, for example, and knight on f3, then when you play g4, he's forced to allow you to open the lines. Either he will move his knight somewhere, and then you can take the pawn and open the lines, or he can just take the pawn, and then he's opening the lines. And even in this kind of positions, oftentimes players sacrifice the pawn. So you can even, I mean, I have discovered in this position, but even if not, the pawn sacrifice here would be a good idea, because I can bring my other rooks and I can do. I mean, it's worthwhile to give away the pawn for the open file in this kind of positions. Okay, so he played g4, so he stopped me from doing this, and now I just brought my other rook to the game. So there are several possibilities here. Of course, I was thinking all the time about h5, and I was calculating several lines, possible lines. So if he takes, then I can take this pawn, for example, or I can take, well, this pawn, although in this case I am in the kind of there is this discovered attack which can be unpleasant. So I didn't play h5, I think, because I was afraid that then he can take my rook, and then I have to bring my rook over, and then he has time to stabilize his defense. He could bring his king, he could bring his bishop, he could, I don't know, do some stuff. So I didn't like the idea. I didn't want to play h5 here, because I didn't want to have to bring my rook back to the queen side and then give him time to consolidate. So I just increased the pressure. I play rook a to g8, and now we can see that, well, I'm the one having the attack. He played knight to h2, which I expected. So he's expecting me to play h5, and he's trying to consolidate his g4. So now he's defending this g4 twice. I did play h5 anyway. He played king to g2. Now he wants to defend this pawn. He doesn't want me to grab this pawn. I took h takes g4, so I'm now opening the lines for the attack for my pieces. And he plays knight takes g4. Okay, this is I think logical move. I'm just thinking if taking with the bishop, I don't think it made such difference. So he played knight takes g4. Okay, now let's stop here for a second. You see that I have some problems with my piece's activity. So okay, this bishop is okay. It's doing a nice job. This bishop doesn't do anything, so it's just looking at the pawns. So I have to think how to liberate this bishop. This knight doesn't have any squares to go. All squares are taken. This knight also doesn't have many squares to go. I mean, it can go here. So I was thinking about maneuvering, doing plenty of remaneuvering to activate my pieces. And I will show you what I was thinking about. But the important thing is that, well, center is locked, queen side is locked, my king is safe. So, and he is under kind of pressure, so he has to be careful. He cannot go wild with his pieces, because I will exploit his weaknesses. So this is the ideal position to really think about remaneuvering. You have time, you're not under attack. So okay, so I was thinking about, let's start with this knight on d4. I want this knight on f4, on d7, sorry, knight on d7, I want it on f4. So this was the maneuver I was thinking about for this knight. Okay. What about this knight? Sorry, what about the knight on f7? I also wanted to hit f4 and maybe even d4. Why not? I mean, it's an outpost. So I was thinking about this, or maybe here. So this was the plan for my other knight. The plan for the bishop was, well, if I want to make this maneuver, then this bishop has to move away, but I like it very much that he is controlling this diagonal, so I will probably just put my bishop back, maybe to c8. Or d7, it doesn't matter. but I would retreat my bishop in order to free a square for my knight. And this bishop I can always activating by playing b6, then it's got some activity, but it's also nice to have it here. For example, if I ever want to push the f5 pawn, this bishop can be very easily activated. So this was my general plan. So this one, maybe here, and bishop here. Yeah, something like this. So I started to unwind this plan. So knight to f8, bishop to f3. I don't really understand this move, to be honest. I mean, it's defending this pawn. I'm not sure. This pawn is not under attack, nor it will be. So I'm not sure why did he play bishop to f3. Engine also thinks it's a bad move, but I'm not sure what was the plan. Oh, I know what was the plan. Yeah, because I know the rest of the game. He wants to cover d5 square because he's thinking about this combination. Okay, so I know what his plan was. Okay, so he played bishop to f3 to perform a plan which will be obvious just a little bit later. So I continued my maneuvering. Knight to g6, hitting here with a check. And now it becomes apparent why did he play this move, because he wanted to play knight to d5 check, temporarily sacrificing the piece. So the idea was, if I take, he takes, I have to move my bishop, and then he can fork my bishop and my king and get his piece back. But just by simple counting, this work doesn't work tactically. So at the end, he will lose this pawn and this pawn, because after he takes and he forks, I will of course take the pawn. He takes back and I will take back. So he will lose these two pawns in the process, and I will lose one pawn in the process. So he'll be pawn down. So tactically this loses a pawn. Strategically, this is a bad idea, because he's the one having the space advantage. I'm the one who is cramped here. So I have four pieces which stumble one on each other. So I noticed that I mentioned that I would need to move my bishop just in order to remaneuver my knight. This bishop is taking the square of this knight. So you can see that my pieces are just crumpling each other. And on the other hand, he has all the space in the world. I mean, he has free diagonals. He can remaneuver as much as he wants. He doesn't have any space disadvantage. He doesn't have any pieces which stumble one upon another. So I think that strategically, even if this move didn't lose a pawn, I think strategically this is a wrong move, because he's initiating exchange and I'm playing with space disadvantage. So of course I'm the one welcoming the exchange. So I think this move is wrong for tactical and strategical reasons. The only justification for this move, which I can see, is that maybe he felt under pressure and under attack, and he wanted to exchange some pieces just so to stop my attack and to stop my pressure, because you can see that all my pieces are aiming at the king side, and maybe he didn't like this idea, so he wanted to exchange some pieces. Okay, so I proceeded c takes d5, e takes d5. Just to mention one more thing. Okay, now I was so focused in calculating this sequence. Forking, taking. So there are some, I don't know, 4 or 5 moves which I had to calculate. So I was just so focused on calculating this sequence that I completely forgot to look at the other side of the board. And in fact, the best move, almost the winning move here was, sorry, not here, after the exchange. Okay, so here. I was, yeah, so at this moment I was focused on this. This is check, of course, I had to take. And now I was so focused on this pawn and on this advancement that I completely overlooked this knight to h4 check. And this is almost winning move, because now I'm taking his bishop, and then I can take this pawn. So if he moves, I take the bishop, he takes, and I'm now winning. I have bishop pair, I'm pawn up, if I count correctly. No, in fact I'm not, but I do have some very strong ideas here. So this is the move I didn't even consider, because if I did, I was focused on the center of the board and on this pawn. And if I did take a look at the round of the board, if I did see this move, I would definitely play this move here, because it's a forcing move and it's a great move. Okay, but I did take I did thinking about this this pawn, so I had to move my bishop. So I moved it in a way to take the knight. He proceeded with his fork idea, and now I have to think, should I take with the knight or should I take with the bishop? So what would you do here? You can pause the video, you can stop maybe at this moment. I mean, it's not a tactical, it's just a strategical decision. So what would you do here? Pause the video and tell me, I mean, tell yourself, would you take with the knight or would you take with the bishop here? Okay, so I decided to take with the bishop, although some general principle says that bishop is stronger than knight, especially in the end game when the game will be played on the both wings, then bishop is supposed to be stronger. But here, for two reasons, I mean for several reasons, I decided to take the bishop. First of all, my intuition. So I just tried to visualize the position after all the exchanges, and I just had a feeling that I like my knight better. Another thing is that the game will actually will be played only on the one side of the board. I mean, after these two pawns are gone, I don't expect there will be much play with these two pawns. I mean, they will probably block each other and my king will protect it, and I don't expect much play on the queen side, so I expect play on the king side. And when you have play only on the one side of the board, then the knight is usually preferred. And the third, the most important reason, I mean, the most important, the reason which definitely make me decide my mind, was that after the exchange, when the knight ends on d6, I am covering f5, so I can play f5 in the future. And if he takes, I can f5, then he has to move away his bishop, and then I have this weakness which I can address. So this was, in fact, the final thing which made me to decide to take with the bishop. So bishop takes d6 was the move. He took, I took with the knight. Okay. And now he decided to insert a check, rook f c1 check. I don't really see. In fact, I would expect him to bring the rook here and try to defend against this penetration. Maybe not immediately, but I would definitely definitely expect him to consider this move. Okay, he played this check, and I just retreated my king here. So my king is very safe here. My king cannot be attacked either by his rooks, neither by his bishop, because this diagonal is blocked by this pawn. So I feel very comfortable with my king here. He proceeded, so bishop takes g4, and now I played knight takes. Okay, the advantage when I was thinking about this, whether to take with the bishop, if I take the bishop, then he has bishop pair, and I don't. And the position is, let's say it's rather open, so one could argue that he has the advantage of bishop pair. But I was thinking, because of this check, I was thinking that he cannot hold this bishop for the long. So I was thinking that probably I will be able to exchange one of my knights for the bishop. So this was also my thinking, and this is exactly what happened. So bishop takes g4, knight f4 check, and now you can see that well, he doesn't have to take, but then I'm dominating with this knight here. So, and this is coming. So he took the knight, and now he doesn't have the bishop pair anymore. G takes f4. Now his bishop is pinned, and here he made a mistake of letting go of this pawn. So he played king to f1. I think that king to h2 would be more accurate defense. Just making sure this pawn is protected for the time being, and then maybe bring this rook over and so on. But okay, he played king to f1, and now you see that my reason for taking with the bishop and to end up with knight on d6 was to play f5. So I did play f5 now, and he has to retreat his bishop, and then I'm just taking. And now this is completely winning for me. First of all, I'm threatening checkmate. Here, mate in 1, so he has to do something about avoiding the checkmate, so he played rook to e1, and now I have a chance to exchange everything. So rook h1 check. I was thinking that he will maybe block with his bishop, but then I will probably go here, here, and well, it doesn't look good for him. So he decided to play king to d2, but now it's very easy for me to force the king on the c file. To force the king on the c file, and then check the king, and then I can exchange everything. And this is obviously winning endgame. So I played knight to e4 check, so to force the king on the c file. He tried to postpone it by playing king to d3, but now I just played rook to d8 check, and now he has to go to the c file, king to c2, king to c8 check. He has to step away, and now I can just exchange rooks. And after the exchanging rooks, I also have this pawn, which I can just freely take. And now this is obviously completely winning, so he played bishop to f1. I suppose that he wanted to attack my this pawn, so I had to be careful here. Just a few words in this position. So this is obviously winning, but still, it's not a time to put your guard down. So you need to think, because maybe you can make one slight mistake and lose one pawn, and if you make another slight mistake and lose second pawn, it's a draw. So it could be a draw. So it's very easy to get relaxed here. So you, even though this is completely winning, you still need to have the mentality of calculating, predicting his next move, and so on. So once he played bishop to f1, I was thinking that he maybe wants to go after my pawn. Of course, he cannot do this immediately because the knight is covering both of these squares. But maybe later he can try to bring his king. I don't know, maybe like this. And then when I move my knight, he can go here, and then it can be some troubles, potential troubles. I mean, he probably doesn't have anything here, but I just, it's important that I saw this as a decent possibility, and I played knight to g4, and now everything is solid. If he plays bishop here or here, trying to attack the pawn, I can very easily defend it either by playing knight to h6 or by playing knight to e3. So this is the idea. The second idea behind this move was to solidify my side. So in this position, this knight is can be kicked away, can be attacked, and so on. And here everything is protected. This is protected. This is protected. This is protected. And if he challenges my knight, I can play something like this, and then everything is protected. And this knight. So imagine this position. So in this position, everything is protected. This knight is on the dark square, and it's far away from the king. This is protected. This is protected, and this, well, it cannot be taken. So this was my idea, just to solidify this side of the board. He played king to d2, and now another point here in the winning position is that well, I know that old me would like to finish this game as soon as possible. So I'm struggling with this wrong mentality. When you are in the winning middle game, then the worst thing you can do is to try to win it fast. So you can be thinking like, okay, I was fighting whole game, I spent 2 hours on the game, and I got all the advantages I could, and now I'm finally winning the game, and now I want to just to quickly finish off the game because I'm sick of this game, and I want just I wanted to finish, and by all rules of chess and everything I know about chess and everything there is to be known about chess, this is a winning position. So I have a winning position, I'm tired, I just want to finish the game. And I do have this mentality very often, and this mentality cost me many games. I lost many games because of this mentality, and I my opponent managed to achieve a draw from the winning position because of this mentality. So the correct mentality and the correct mindset in the end game is what Grandmaster Ben Feingold once said. He said that you should play the end game like you don't want the game to ever end. So you want to play like you want the game to last forever, and this is a good mentality. So don't hurry. If you have a good winning position, just improve your pieces slowly. Go forward, push your pawns. It doesn't matter if this game ends in next 5 moves or next 50 moves. It's the same. But if you play slowly, then you are much less likely to make a mistake. So the old me would here most likely play e4, and I would not mind bringing my king up. I would think, okay, I have 3 very strong pawns. I can just push the pawns with the help of the knight, and I can win. And this is very risky because I can make a mistake and lose 1 pawn, and then maybe he can block my 2 pawns with his bishop, and I could have some serious trouble. And there is no need to do so. So I remember this Grandmaster Feingold's advice, and I said, okay, I'm not in a hurry. I can play this game for the next 50 moves. I don't care. Even though if it's completely winning, and even though if, for example, if you are on the over the board tournament, then you have very often you have spectators watching you, and most often these spectators, because if you are not a chess star, so these spectators are your friends from the club and people who know you, and now they are watching. And there is also this pressure in the over the board game that if you have a completely winning position, that you want to win with the least possible number of moves, because well, if you don't do it, then they make fun of you later. So this is also one temptation. But even in the online game, I mean, I had something like 5 or 6 spectators. So probably some of my viewers were watching me play. There was one guy from my club who was watching me, some of the teammates, since this is a team league. So you are also in this kind of pressure that you don't want to make silly moves. I mean, you are winning, go on and win. But you have to fight this as well. So I played king to c7, and like I said, old me would never play this move. But this is one thing I have to work on, and okay, even though this is completely winning, I still want to cultivate these good chess habits. He played b5. Again, I don't want to ignore this, although I could ignore. I could play any move wins here in this position, but I still want to play patiently, so I play b6. So my pawn is now on the dark square. This bishop cannot attack this pawn, so now I can be completely confident that this is locked, and I can focus my attention of playing to the king side. He played king to e2, and now I'm just bringing up my king. So why not? Even though, I mean, it has to be possible to win without the king, because there are so many pawns and the knight. But why should I risk it? So I will just bring my king slowly. I don't know how. I will just bring my king slowly up, and I will push my pawns with the help of my king and with the help of my knight, and I'm sure of victory. And now, of course, my opponent played very quickly. Here he reasonably wanted the game to end, so he played knight to f3, and he just came to the fork. So now at this moment I just fork him, check. He moved, I took the bishop, he took the bishop, and now he resigned. There is no reasonable hope that, I mean, even with the worst play, I should win this. Even if he takes all of my pawns, just by grabbing this pawn, I should win the game. So at this moment he resigned. And you can also notice his time control, so he's 45. He ended up the game with more time that he had when he started. So he played very quickly. And if I was to give the advice to my opponent, I would tell him that he should use all the time he has. Time is the very important resource in the chess game, so you want to use all the time. I mean, the game is with increment. You can see also my time. I had 34 minutes, so I didn't use all of my time as well. But this is the game with increment, and once you get into forcing sequence, once you have obvious moves to play, then you can pump up your time. And let's just quickly look at the time. I wanted to see what was his lowest. 38, I think, yeah. So he never went below 37 minutes. Okay, so 37 minutes, and then he started to play quickly, and he come back. So yeah, and let me see, my time, I was 30 minutes. Yeah, so I went up to 30, and then I also got some time, because well, at some from this moment on, the moves were very easy and very obvious to make. So yeah, I did miss these tactics, but those are all very, I mean, capture, recapture, very obvious moves. Check, check, capture, recapture, capture the free pawn, go on and exchange. I mean, very obvious moves. You don't really have to think a lot about this. Okay, this will be it for today. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you find this video instructive and useful. If you did, please click the like button, share the video, subscribe to my channel if you didn't, leave the comment below by all means, and see you very soon with more chess. Cheers.